Hello, my name is Eduardo Flores. When I was 20 years old, I entered a monastery and I remained there for about 22 years. During that time in the monastery, I saw the importance of the mind over the body, but most important, the power that we have when we tap into our soul, that it has a direct influence over our minds and over our bodies. So today I want to talk to you a little bit about frequencies, vibrations, and how these all relate. It's fascinating. It's all what I've learned throughout my life, about 37 years or so. We know that from science that our brain is putting out some frequencies. These frequencies are depending on the quality of our thoughts and emotions that we are having at any given time. Now, most of us, we have, like we call it, habitual ways of thinking. We think certain things over and over. Every day we think the same thoughts. And these habits of thoughts, habitual thoughts, form or are like a magnet in our brain. And this magnet, it begins to draw into our lives every day things, people, and conditions. Now, what happens if we don't like the things that we are drawing daily into our lives, or we want to change certain things? Then it becomes very obvious that what we need to change is the magnet, that quality that magnet is vibrating, what is vibrating, what that magnet is putting out. So we'll talk a little bit about how to change that magnetic force, that frequency that magnetic force is putting out in our brains, and bringing to us our world as we know it. So let's talk a little bit about what is feeding that magnet. What are the things that are feeding that magnet? Well, one of the things are obviously our desires, our intentions that we put out every day for things that we want. Another thing is obvious is the natural reaction to our environment for survival, plus the influence of our environment that we place ourselves in, that influence that makes us believe certain things, or the influence that are good for us, or certain things that we want, we must have it. Like if you watch TV, a lot of commercials, then they're going to have an influence in your own life and what you're putting out. If we know people that have certain things and we like them, then our environment, we begin to, oh, maybe I should have that too. Maybe I need to have that to be happy. So we are influenced by our environments, we're also influenced by our desires, and we are also influenced, most of all, and most people are not quite aware of it, by our unresolved emotional issues of our past, however long that might be. So those unresolved emotional issues, let's talk a little bit about what are those. Well, let's say when I was a little kid, I was my mother, and my mother left me alone at home for maybe 20 minutes, and she drove the car or walked to the store across the street to buy some milk. Now, I, a little boy, didn't know any better. I thought my mother was abandoning me, was leaving me, was going away for good. So I began to cry, I began to react, I began to have all these feelings of I'm left alone, now what's going to happen to me? And in that moment, I decide, the little boy, to be a certain way in order to survive. And that being a certain way, because of the pain I am feeling, most likely I am choosing to be a certain way that is not in my highest benefit, that is not in tune with reality, what's really going on. It's just an interpretation of what's happening. So that being a certain way that I choose to be from that moment on, even though after my mother returns, I already chose to be a certain way, then as I go along my life, every time I am in that situation where I feel that somebody is going to leave me, let's say at work or in a relationship or so, or a friendship, then I begin to, it triggers that little trauma, you might say, that I had when I was a little boy, and my mother went out across the street to buy some milk. So when that gets triggered, I'm going to react in a way to survive again, and perhaps it's not going to be the best way that I would react if I was completely clear. Also, because I have that frequency within me, that trauma within me, that is putting out certain vibration, then that vibration is going to draw me into environments, into people, into conditions that will have to be played out again and again and again. The sciences now that our brain is putting out like 400,000 impulses per second, of which we are only aware of maybe just a few hundred of them. We are aware of those few hundred of them, of which are those. On any given moment, we are aware of the ones that you might say are playing out the most, are more prominent in our field in any given moment. Now, if I am in a situation where I might feel abandoned again, then those frequencies of abandonment that I have within me, unresolved, begin to play out loud and begin to make me act and react in that moment with that mental pattern. So those unresolved things, traumas that become active at any given time, according on what circumstances we find ourselves, are a huge percentage of what is feeding that magnet that we carry on all of our times, that is putting out there to draw our world. So that is a huge one. And in treating people and seeing people, after testing, I make them realize that could be taking up sometimes 60, 70%, or even higher sometimes, of their power is being influenced by those unresolved issues. So as you see, if we want to change the magnet that draws to us our world, we need to change what's feeding that magnet. Some of them things are easy. We need to perhaps place ourselves in a different environment. Maybe stop watching so many commercials or so much TV or something, and start maybe reading some good books. Start mixing with good people. Those are things that we can actually see why would I want to do that. But the most difficult one of all is to control, but to have a handle on those unresolved issues that are vibrating for us for years and years and years and years, and perhaps for ages. So how do we do that? So we have a system to identify what those are, to dissolve them, scientifically dissolve them, at least temporarily dissolve the energy that is filling the magnet, take the dissolved energy and use it and transmute it into a very high frequency intention that is going to feed the magnet powerfully to certain techniques. And once the magnet is being fed, instead of that, you might say the negative or the energy that takes you out, is feeding some very high positive energy, the magnet begins to get to be fed more and more by positive energy, by powerful energy that begins to draw into your world like things. Not that energy, that powerful energy that we vibrate, that we feed into a magnet, is held, as long as you're awake, by another instrument that we have, what we call the genie of power. The genie that grants you your noble wishes. Once you are able to vibrate, to dissolve the lower energy, transmute it and vibrate into very high energy, the genie shields you, that energy, from many, many other things, like from thoughts of other people that are contrary to what you're vibrating, from your own limiting beliefs that tend to undermine what you vibrate, and also from other things like electrical frequency from cell phones, computers, and other things. And there's a lot of other things. But basically, you dissolve the energy, the negative energy is vibrating in you at any given time. You transmute it, you vibrate very high, you feed a magnet, and you hold it. So your brain continues to vibrate at a very high frequency as long as you're awake, and begin obviously to change the magnet, and you will see in 2 or 3 months your magnetic power will be great. You will feel very different. You feel effects almost immediately, but as you go along, you keep magnetizing. The magnet that draws to you, your world, has changed. And it's beginning to draw very high like frequencies through people, events, circumstances, and intuitive guidance that you coming to you to guide you manifest the noble world that you're vibrating at. So if you're interested in this, I would like to invite you to click the button below and get some more information. Thank you for listening and have a great life.